you guys are all on?
Minimize that.
Minimize this right here.
Yep.
Okay.
And then click this X. Yep. And is this what it normally looks like for you?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item is our pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
Excuse me. The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda, do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any additions? If not, we'll go ahead and vote. It is approved. Public forum, this is the time the public can approach and comment to the board. Is there anybody out there that'd like to talk to us? Feel free to come up. Moving on to our first presentation. We're going to do the tour after the meeting, and but we'll highlight that.
Yeah, I'll just share kind of what that presentation is. So our current lease at the Maytech site expires in December of 2023. We've been discussing options for that program location going forward. We've had some really good discussions with SMSU about a possible lease of the SS building, which is on the far north end of that campus. Immediately following our business meeting this afternoon, we'll be going over to SMSU to take a brief tour of that location with the school board, and we can discuss how that space could possibly work to meet our needs. Some highlights of that site include that because it was originally designed to be an educational space, it has classrooms designed to be used as classrooms, something we haven't had at Maytech right now. I see Amanda out there smiling when I say that. That's something we've talked about for a lot of years. Would be really nice, that program. Also, that site is in very close proximity to the high school, which would be convenient for sharing staff and for classes for students that might not be available at one site or the other. And there's plenty of green space on that location that we don't currently have at our Maytech location. So on our next meeting on the 15th, I've invited Kim Bars and Gary High. They're the architect and the project manager for that project. They're going to come and give us a little more comprehensive update on the project, but they weren't available tonight and we weren't able to do the tour next week. So we're going to do the tour this week and to get the update next week about that project. We feel this site would be a great long-term fit for our needs, and a partnership with the Service Cooperative and SMSU, as the Service Cooperative is looking at parts of that building as well, would really benefit all groups involved. So we're excited to bring the board over and show you that location.
Very good. Any questions? Moving on to our consent agenda, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on any of the items? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Moving on to our discussion items. First reading, a review of policy 524. Any comments? This is internet security.
Yeah, I'll share with that one. There have been some changes in statute this year around internet online safety data and planning. And part of that update, MSBA has updated that policy for us, including the internet acceptable use agreement. That's part of what we have our students look at each fall. So this update reflects those changes and things such as reporting sites that we use and how we report that and how we monitor safety and data privacy with different pieces. So this is all updated to reflect those changes.
Very good. Any comments? Moving on to our second review of policies 206 through 214. This will be the second reading. Any comments or any questions? Discussion items, summer project update.
Jeremy and I just thought it'd be a good idea this time of year to review some of the summer projects that we have going on along with our long-term facility maintenance projects. And so the community knows kind of where we're at on some of these things. So we just typed up somewhat of a little look back and look forward, because I think it's important. Just for instance, at the high school, we did the mill and overlay. It was last year of our big parking lots. We do have one parking lot that we did a crack fill and seal on it. That's the one in front of the gym. It's not wearing as well as we had hoped. We filled it in some potholes, so we'll probably look at doing a mill and overlay on that next year. And if you guys have any questions as we go through this, please let me know.
Middle school?
That's at the high school.
High school one?
Yep.
Okay.
And we think it's important, just for you guys to know, because I'm sure you'll get questions, why is the gym parking lot not done? It's on our radar. And we do our best to try and get the potholes filled throughout the year until we can get a permanent fix done. The outside islands at the high school, all had wood chips in them, and every year the wood chips would blow out. We'd have weeds in them, and it would look not great out there. So Warren and the groundskeeper actually thought, and I didn't know that this was something that they'd be willing to do, let's fill it up with dirt and plant grass, which I think longevity-wise and looks will definitely be a nice change out there. So I'll be working on that this fall. Tennis court, we're going to have to keep our eyes on that. Every year we have to do crack fill and paint the lines. It's taken a little wear on it. I think it's been close to 10 years now since we had the redo. So we're going to take a look at that. We have a professional maintenance company coming down to see if they could do the maintenance on it, or if, where we're sitting at that, so we can get it on our long-term facility maintenance. So somewhat of a big project there. Irrigation system at the high school. We've had several pipes break there. In case you hear about the practice fields out there, the soccer fields, along with the heat and everything, we're repairing those pipes as they break, but we're using better piping. Some of the piping that initially was put in, I'm sure just for economical reasons, isn't lasting as well, so we're upgrading that as we can. And one thing that somewhat on our radar is the first practice football field is a sand-based. We have had no luck growing grass out there. So obviously turf is probably not an option at a practice field, since we're lucky enough to have the one out at SMSU with turf on it, but we could look at maybe replacing that with dirt and actually putting grass, which field 2 and field 3 every year we're fine with. Low maintenance, so we'll keep you guys informed on that. Shot clocks, you'll see shot clocks added at the north and south gym at the high school. Shot clocks will be required at the high school level in 23-24. And I think actually Rick Purrington on this thought it'd be a good idea to get a jump on it this year, so we're not behind on it with trying to get the equipment when everybody else is trying to get it. And I did want to point out that Hoops and MG VA did help donate some money towards those shot clocks. And then the north and south gym will get some maintenance done. Middle school, a lot like Parkside was last year and a couple years ago. We did a lot at Parkside. We're focusing on the middle school this year. Our fax room is starting up this year again, so we tested out all the appliances. Luckily, there was only one stove that needed minor repair, and then we'll have to replace one of the cooktop stoves. We're actually going to replace it just with a regular stove. The middle school paging system is outdated and not working correctly, so we'll be in the process of putting in a new paging system and clocks throughout the school. Last year we did our sidewalk replacement around the middle school. We had a couple of them that we left out in front of the old pool, which we wanted to wait for construction to go in and out, so those will be repaired out front there. And our retrofit lighting, which we had half of the school done, all is completed except for in the gymnasium. Lights in the gym, we're going to be replacing those with more efficient lighting. It'll look a lot nicer in there with everything else that's being done. That'll be done this fall along with the IEQ project. Carpet project is almost done. We've got a fifth grade wing left and the band room. Everything else is done. So the carpet was replaced in the district office, the middle school office, and the classrooms. Some LVT was replaced this summer, and then we'll look at completing that project in the next couple of years. The smoke damper above the theater had to be replaced. I put that in there because it's something that just came up, and it's about a $60,000 project. So as we go through these projects, there's some high dollar amount things that just pop up. We continue to update the door key cores throughout the building for safety purposes. And then the old pool area, which we're hopefully going to start calling the middle school multi-purpose area, renovations continue. Just went through some things that we've done in the past, and if we have a chance, we'll walk by there on our way to SMSU, but it's coming along very nicely. Hopefully have the gymnastic equipment moved over towards the end of August, and then it'll also be used for middle school to use during the day. Our indoor air quality IEQ project is coming along nicely. We had 5 mechanical units that have been replaced at the middle school. Main areas were down in the gym, the locker rooms, and the middle school multi-purpose area. That project will hopefully wrap up around August 15th. Track replacement is going well. They're putting down a couple coats of sealer. They've got the new rubber out there, and then they'll have the lines painted hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Irrigation system has been added and completed in the middle of the track, and then both sheds that are out there have been cleaned out. It had been a while, so we worked with community service and our track coaches on that. The older of the 2 sheds, the tan shed, we were going to replace, but the interior of it is actually really good. And there's electricity hooked up to it, so we're looking at just putting some siding on it. The roof is actually in good shape too. Almost all the exterior doors at the middle school have been replaced and updated. I think we've got all but 1 left. Southwest Glass was working on that project. The exterior glass or the exterior doors were installed with intrusion resistant glass. And then the classroom windows, they're hopefully going to have done in the next couple of weeks. Those are getting replaced. And in the classrooms, they were single pane glass, and they'll be putting in double pane tempered glass.
Who's doing that project?
Southwest Glass is also doing that. So a lot of things going on at Parkside or at the middle school. Parkside, we're continue to replace some of the inner door key cores again, just to update and for safety reasons. We're doing some roof gutter replacement and additions to try and help with some of the erosion around the school. We are looking at a different type of a snow guard roof system that we're getting quoted out. The current system does not work, and it is a safety hazard. And then the IEQ project that we had put in the new boiler and chillers in there is completed and running well. Southview will continue to work on the punch list and warranty items. As hopefully you know, or maybe you don't know, the cafeteria tile at Southview, they are going to be replacing that as it is not adhering like we had wanted. So that is under a warranty item. We don't have to pay anything for that, and they'll hopefully be starting that next week. So that'll be done. We've got some landscape and grading reviews and improvements that we're working on. So as you look around at some of the grading and the landscaping, we will be working on that and making sure that that's approved before they leave. One addition is going to be a shed put on the back of Southview. That was actually budgeted in from the beginning. That's to hold the snow blower and some custodial equipment. And then I would encourage anybody that has time to stop by Southview. We do have an additional dinosaur graphic that was put up in the main area. It is huge. It was also a budgeted item. We just wanted to make sure everything was settled in there. And then we did update the one in the library with the frame around it. It makes it give a little more pop. So it's pretty cool if you guys can get out there and take a look at that. And then just some future items that we've got for next year. Carpet and LVT replacement at the high school. We'll continue upgrading the piping and the irrigation system. We'll work on landscaping, and then like we talked about, the gym parking lot. Also down the road around 2026, roof replacement, we'll be doing some reviewing. We won't just replace to replace. It's holding up well right now, but we'll try to get that project before things start leaking. Middle school, we'll start working on updating the theater, seating, lighting, and sound system. That might come in different parts of projects instead of trying to do it all at once. LBT replacement in the classrooms and in the cafeteria. That again might be over a few years. We'll focus probably on the cafeteria next year so we can get that done. Update the piping and the showers in the locker rooms. That's been a needed project. Sand and refinish the gym floor. I know people have asked about that. I think we have that in 2024. And update painting throughout the building. Southview, like I talked about, the snow guard system. We'll work on landscaping. Replacing the ceiling tiles in the cafeteria, not the bronze part, but the ceiling tiles around that. Updates the folding partitions. That's taken some wear, and update painting throughout the building. And then district-wide, I know it's been talked about with the solar project to see where that's at. We're in the final phase of the grant process. We just got an email today from them. They just wanted some additional information. So we haven't fully we don't have the grant for sure yet, but we're on the final stages. As soon as we do that, we'll still get it in this fall.
You think they'll do all the buildings this fall?
That's our hope.
That'd be great. Any comments, questions?
I just want to throw out a special thank you, honestly, to Warren, who we have a shared spreadsheet with all these projects on and timelines and where to go. I was in his office the other day asking him a question. His cell phone and his regular phone was going off when I was giving him a question. He works really well with our local contractors, and so he's really kind of, I think, doing a little extra this summer to make sure we've really piled it on to get some of these projects done.
That's an example of when you hear, oh, it must be really quiet at the schools this summer. No, it's not quiet in the summers. This is the only time we get a chance to get some of these things done. So Deanna and his crew have been very busy with that, and we appreciate it.
Good, thank you. Return to learn.
I just wanted to share a little bit, we hear about cases of COVID still around. We know it's not completely gone. And just as we're coming into a new school year, some of the questions I've had are, well, what does that look like? What does that mean at school? And it's certainly different than it's been in the past, but I wanted to share a few things. There's a discussion we've had around current protocols and what that looks like in the future with positive cases. Guidelines continue to change over time, but we're still monitoring the Department of Health guidance in our planning and response efforts. So what I've attached to the board agenda is two different pieces. The first one in there, its link it says keep our children safe. That really lays out the bulk of what we're looking at as well. It fits, their current guidelines fit very well with what we've talked about doing. That is where we're going to start the year. Key messages in that document are around staying home if you're sick, which has been our message all along, washing hands frequently, getting tested if you have symptoms, and wearing the mask if you've tested positive or as required with that area. So that's where we're at with it. Certainly, we're seeing less and more understanding maybe of what's going on, but it's still very real, and we still have positive cases that we still respond to as the year goes on. So wanted to share that with the board. The other piece that's linked in there, it's COVID-19 symptoms. I think that's something, as we've learned more about COVID and what that looks like, just wanted to remind people of what those symptoms are and what to watch for as they might have questions. So our nurses are very much a part of all those conversations, and we'll be monitoring this. And these posters are things we'll be displaying around the schools and have available for people with questions as well as on our website and whenever those questions come up. We do feel that it's still in our best interest to limit visitors in the schools at times like lunch, both for COVID and just for general safety. We've had some limits with those things the past couple of years. We feel that's in our best interest to continue some of that, kind of at the level where we were last year. So not saying no visitors at all, but just watching how many people we have in, when we have them in, how we're monitoring that during the day and that sort of thing. So that's what we plan on continuing for the current school year.
I did have some people ask, they didn't get a chance to see Southview, and they were wondering if they could see that. Should they call?
They should call Southview. Yep, absolutely. And we
They said
can.
they probably could do that before they opened it up again. They just would
Absolutely.
like to see the building.
Yep.
This is our next action, our action item is memorandum of agreement with the Western Mental Health Center. Motion to approve
Second.
is open for discussion.
I'll share with this one. This is a new opportunity for us. Western Mental Health had reached out last spring and offered to partner with us for students that have substance use concerns. They have a licensed counselor who what this agreement would allow is for them to work out of our schools and just partner with our staff and providing support to students and families where we have information about a substance use concern that we have. It won't be any additional cost to the district other than some in-kind, some office space and equipment and that sort of thing to use. But still, they'd be a Western Mental Health practitioner. We have chemical pre-assessment meetings with these students. So this person could be part of those conversations, just be a resource in the building to talk about substance use with our students for the middle school and the high school. So as we've talked with the administration at those two levels, they're excited about the opportunity, and this would be a trial period for this first year and see how it goes.
I think it's a great resource for us, particularly with kids who've gone to treatment and who come back and need support.
And some of it would be there, and some would be even before it gets to that level.
Yeah. Both, on both ends.
Hey,
Excellent opportunity.
I echo a lot of what Bill is saying. I know I have spoke repeatedly about mental health issues in our schools, and there is a big connection between mental health issues and substance use abuse. I think we're finding more and more of that in society every day. So I think anything we can do to help our students on that front is terrific. So wholeheartedly has my support.
Any other comments? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Action item, approval of the 2022-23, 23-24 SMSU facility agreement. Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Open for discussion.
So this is kind of a little different agreement we have with SMSU with the different facilities we use between the pool, the Schwann's Regional Event Center, the football field, and then the track complex, along with some of the other areas that we are allowed to use through our joint agreement with no cost. So do want to thank Deb Kirkhart. She was very good to work with on trying to get this arranged. But SMSU feels, and I think we agree, that between some of the maintenance and the custodial and upgrades and everything of these facilities, it's a lot cheaper for us to do somewhat of a lease agreement than it is to build it ourselves and maintain. So this is a 2-year agreement, and then we'll take have our new ADs and along with some other people sit down and see what of a more long-lasting one could look like.
Partnerships work great. Any comments? Vote, please. Is approved. Action item is discussion approval of revenue authorization resolution and calling for a special election. Motion to discuss. Second. Floor is yours.
Okay, the Finance Committee met last Thursday to discuss whether or not to recommend a special election to increase our general education revenue through an operating levy referendum. As you know, the community voted on and passed back in 2013 a $675 per adjusted pupil unit increase. Excuse me. That increase expired in June of 18, which we did not renew. As Gian presented each year during the Truth and Taxation and just did in his budget presentation in June, as well as Ellers presented to the board in June, our general education formula allowance has not kept up with inflation. Over the past 4 years, we have been able to use some of our fund balance and COVID funds to offset some of this difference, but with COVID funds ending soon, we need to now go back to the community. We would recommend going forward with the special election in which ballot would ask to increase our general revenue by $675 per adjusted pupil unit. This would be applicable for 10 years, which would begin in taxes payable in 2023 and could increase each year by the rate of inflation. beginning taxes payable 2024. Important to note, each year the school board would have the authority to approve the maximum levy, but also could decrease the levy amount depending on the school's financial situation. Dean can describe this more.
So, I think Shelby did a really nice job. It was in June when she came and presented. Just to point out again, it's not out of the norm. In her presentation, she had 234 out of the 327. 72% of the districts in Minnesota have a current voter-approved operating referendum authority. Average between those per pupil is $850, which we're asking $675. Jeremy and I have already done some homework on the back end, looking at different districts throughout our region, the Big South, and the 675 is right in line with where the other districts are. Just a couple of things to point out. The formula allowance compared to the inflation, again, I know you guys see this 3 to 4 times a year. It's separating even more. We had a little gap closure there, but it's getting a little more. This, I think, Jody just said last week, $798 is the difference between the gap. Take that by the 2742 in our adjusted pupil units, it's $2.1 million gap between that. So, Jeremy and I did quite a few discussions on this of what dollar amount. We met with the finance committee, and we feel that the 675 was what we had back in 2018. We're not asking the community for anything more, just to react that 675 to help us close that gap, and then we will try to be responsible in finding if there needs to be a bigger gap outside of that, of what we can do. Tax impact on that also in that presentation. Just so everybody can see, average, just say an average is $200,000 on an estimated market value, be about $21 a month increase. Just so you can see that. Estimated net increase in revenue would be right at around $1.7 million if we went with the 675.
Small price. It's a small price to pay. Any comments?
Yeah. This is, excuse me, this is not about brick and mortar. This is about operating our current programs, maintaining the programs we currently have. If we don't pass this, we'll have to do some cutting. We can't afford to do that for our kids.
And not to interrupt you, Bill, it's a great comment, because we go through that list of 3 pages of what we're doing with our facilities. That money can only be used for long-term facility maintenance improvements. It cannot be used for our operation. It's very strict on that. So as people see our track being done and some other things that we're doing, which we've heard from the community that we need to keep our facilities up, we're only using those funds that we can use for facilities. We can't transfer that money for operation.
Well, and we're a regional center. We're a regional educational hub. Parents move here because of the programs we offer. And if we have to cut programs, we're going to lose that opportunity for parents.
Any other comments? Please vote. It is approved. Thank you, board meeting. We will not adjourn this until after the meeting. We'll do it by voice vote.